Kangqiao woke up from the initial birth of the world, but at this time he became the larva of Godzilla. This is the story of a Godzilla punching an old monster and kicking the gods of faith. At first, he was called the oldest deity of the earth and lava, later, he was called the oldest deity of shining stars and light, finally, he is the sole ruler of the universe and the ultimate symbol of transcendence from all things. Keywords of the novel. Me, Godzilla, the old dominator without pop-ups, Me, Godzilla, the old dominator TXT complete collection download, Me, Godzilla, the old dominator latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Awakening and Beginning. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Awakening and Beginning. There is no sun or moon in the sky, and there is no normalcy in the earth. This is an eternal dark space. There is no sound or any moving object in the darkness. Kangqiao's consciousness felt very cold, his memories were chaotic and confused, and the warm remnants of the last scene seemed to be watching a movie called Godzilla 4 in a cinema, and then there was no more. What is a cinema? What is Godzilla? Kangqiao doesn't remember, but why did he think of these words? Kangqiao couldn't continue thinking because he felt very cold. Cold to the point where the soul seems to freeze and shatter. He needs to rest. However, at this moment, in this eternal darkness, at some point in the unknown direction and space, a dim yellow source suddenly lit up. The material of origin gave birth to light and illuminated the entire darkness. At this moment, even Kangqiao, who was already half lost, could feel it. However, soon the entire dark world of eternal silence suddenly exploded. The massive source light shattered and exploded, sweeping across the entire silent dark space. And it was at this moment that Kangqiao's consciousness was completely knocked out. When he woke up again, it felt like he was in a dream, and Kangqiao just felt very, very comfortable. That is a touch that feels like being wrapped in hot springs on a cold winter day. Time has no end, and time doesn't know how to flow. In this complete sinking, one day, Kangqiao finally woke up. Just as he woke up, he found himself floating on a sea level of apocalypse. Staring wide-eyed, Kangqiao stared blankly at everything in front of him, feeling that everything was so unreal. The sky is a dark and thick layer of clouds, above which endless storm eyes are raging throughout the world. The air is filled with sulfur-scented sandstorms, and even distant underwater flames occasionally erupt. The big waves are sweeping across the entire ocean, and at this moment, the ocean is also appearing murky. This is an unknown world, and also a terrifying apocalyptic world. Just looking at the world in front of him, Cambridge is unwilling to face reality. Not to mention, his will has always been in a state where he seems to have just woken up completely unaware of what he is doing. Instinctively, subconsciously, Kangqiao rose up and fled from here. He slid his limbs like a lizard. No, the current state of Kangqiao is like a lizard. A strange little creature that can lurk in the sea, even fearless of scorching seawater. The skin is rocky gray, with a long tail and short limbs, and the whole body looks like a newly hatched lizard. But it is perhaps a miracle that such a seemingly ordinary and tiny water lizard can be born in this apocalyptic world at this moment. At the bottom of the sea, he can maintain his vital features at all times without exposing himself to the water. Even if there is an underwater volcano erupting next to him, he can only experience the pleasure of throwing objects from high altitude and then safely fall back into the sea. The high temperature of the underwater volcano is like a beautiful and warm bathhouse for Kangqiao. This warmth made his body feel particularly comfortable. Occasionally, he could see the fiery lava erupting from an island, and Kangqiao even felt like he wanted to get close and fall asleep in it. Kangqiao's consciousness was very wandering, with a voice and a different instinct driving him to abandon the temptation of his existing physical instincts and frantically flee these apocalyptic dangers. Then, travel and observe along the way. Tired and drifting along the waves and winds, I woke up and continued aimlessly wandering in the area with a lot of apocalyptic scenes. Time is meaningless at this moment. Finally, Kangqiao was completely tired. Like a four-legged snake falling into the water, its belly facing the sky, swaying in this apocalyptic world. Sometime, one day, Kangqiao finally woke up again. However, after this awakening, Kangqiao's confused consciousness suddenly became clear. He learned about his past as a human and also learned about the memories of becoming a lizard and witnessing this apocalyptic world. Having regained his senses, Kangqiao stood up in the mud and sand at the bottom of the sea. He turned his head and looked at his body and limbs, suddenly feeling inexplicably melancholy. Did I turn into a lizard? No need to breathe air, let alone fear high temperatures. What kind of lizard is this? These inexplicable ideas only existed for a while, and Kangqiao did not continue to think. Because at this moment, Kangqiao feels very hungry. Hungry to the point where all the cells were urging him to quickly search for food. And it was at this moment that Kangqiao began to examine the surrounding environment. Unlike the confused memories from the last awakening, the once murky and turbulent sea has become clear. Looking up above the sea level, Kangqiao can even see sunlight shining through the seawater, illuminating the entire sea area. Kangqiao understood that his position may not be far from the sea level. He thought he might go to the sea to take a look, but then he also saw a group of crustaceans that looked very similar to horseshoe crabs crawling over the seabed. But unlike the horseshoe crab in memory, these guys have many pairs of feet on their stomachs. And there are also two long antennae on the head. It doesn't look like horseshoe crabs, but rather a bit like cockroaches. What exactly are these strange things? They're not toxic, are they? Kangqiao hesitated for a moment, then had no room for further thought. Because he is too hungry. Hungry to the point where only the remaining rationality is quickly drowned out. Rationality and other things only gather when you are full. So, as a special lizard, Kangqiao rushed over directly. Kangqiao's body size is at least several times larger than these strange creatures. It's probably a comparison between adults and children. Hunting these slow-moving guys is simply not too easy. His sharp claws on all four limbs shattered the protection of these crustaceans, and blue blood instantly spread throughout the sea. The scene of Kangqiao eating was very rough and bloody. One was not enough to fill his teeth. He hunted and killed more than 10 crustaceans, and only then did he alleviate his hunger. What about the meat under the shell of crustaceans? It's not very delicious, at least in Kangqiao's current sense of taste. It's also full of a fishy smell. But his physical reaction did not reject this foul smell. I probably won't have the urge to vomit, and I don't know if it's good or bad. Well, that's it. Looking at the mess on the ground, Kangqiao smacked his mouth, but then he didn't have much emotion. Because he wants to know what the outside world is like now. Therefore, he once again turned his gaze to the sea level. His limbs are folded on both sides of his body, and his tail sways more than the swimming speed of a fish. Finally, it only took a little time for Cambridge to finally break through the sea level, splashing water and finally seeing the long-lost sun. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Growth and Sleep. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Growth and Sleep. The sun in the sky is so dazzling. But at this moment, the eyes of Kangqiao were filled with a nostalgic taste. The dazzling sun made Kangqiao couldn't help but squint his eyes, and he began to observe the world in front of him. The clouds in the sky are not too thick, but the air is still filled with a familiar smell of sulfur. Turning his head slightly, looking around the sea level, Kangqiao finally saw the source of the sulfur smell. Not far from Kangqiao, there is only a small island in the vast sea emitting thick smoke. However, there was no spark in the thick smoke. So the surrounding environment is also relatively peaceful. The sea is calm and stable, but it slowly ripples with the sea breeze. Looking at the island, smelling the smell of sulfur smoke, and once again, out of physical instinct, Kangqiao swam directly over. As he successfully climbed onto the coast of the small island, a sense of pleasure from both body and mind immediately spread. The temperature of the entire island is very high. There are no plants at all, let alone marine organisms. Before landing, Kangqiao could even see a large number of bubbles bulging up from the boiling seawater around the island. Bubbles appear from rocks and crevices on the seabed, and then burst out at sea level. This environment naturally created a large amount of water mist around the island. Looking at the desolate island and the sea surrounding it, Kangqiao decided to think of the highest volcanic eruption on the island and head away. The high temperature here and the instinctive urge of one's own body. All of this tells Kangqiao that perhaps high temperatures are the most beneficial for their growth. Although this idea may seem absurd, associating it with the past in one's memory, and now successfully reviving all mature rationality, Cambridge feels that all of this is so reasonable. What kind of species are you? Ordinary lizards. Looking at his limbs and the contours of his body, Kangqiao felt inexplicably helpless. How could it be an ordinary lizard? No air is needed, even high temperatures are pleasant and unafraid. Can this be a lizard? But in terms of past life memories, there is no such creature in reality. Not to mention, now Kangqiao is completely immersed in the magma of the volcano. Yes. Kangqiao is now soaking in a magma bath inside the volcano. In magma, it even makes Kangqiao feel more comfortable than in seawater. Even for a while, Kangqiao fell asleep comfortably. When he woke up again, he just exerted a slight force and broke free from a layer of skin. Yes, Kangqiao fell asleep and woke up in just one moment, and then began to molt. And even with my body, I don't know how much bigger I am. When he climbed out of the volcano, his entire body even blocked the crater. It took him a long time to squeeze out of the volcano before he successfully managed to escape. Due to the lack of necessary references and comparisons, Kangqiao was unable to estimate how big he really was. There are no scale instruments, no reference objects, and now the size in his eyes is fundamentally different from that in human eyes. He only knows clearly now that compared to his previous physique, he should have grown more than 6 times larger now. This can be concluded from a giant rock on the edge of the island, because when he came ashore to look at the rock earlier, his body length was only about 1/10 of that of the rock. And now, when he arrived at the coast again, his body was already over half the length of a giant rock. Crawling up to the boulder, Kangqiao pondered for a moment before waving his forelimbs. The claws of the forelimbs carried tremendous force, causing the entire boulder to form grooves in the deep Martian space. Sharp. Extremely sharp. Kangqiao lifted his forelimbs and looked at the ravines on the boulder, feeling inexplicably stunned. Have you completely turned into a monster yourself? I don't know whether to be happy or worried. Faced with this desolate world and a world surrounded by oceans except for small islands, Kangqiao spent his days like a year. Under the unchanging world, he had to find some fun to pass the time for himself. At the bottom of the sea, Kangqiao had another rare hunt. This time, Kangqiao caught 2 huge marine creatures. Of course, this vastness is only the size of his forelimb palm. But this should also be considered a giant, because finding these 2 guys, Kangqiao soaked in the sea for many days. One of the crustaceans that Kangqiao saw before, should be trilobites. And the other one is a huge strange shrimp. Carrying 2 decent prey, Kangqiao went ashore. Then, as he returned to the volcano, he strung these 2 long dead creatures on his paws and baked them into cooked food. Don't say it. After eating cooked food for a long time, Kangqiao was filled with tears. No mistake, that's the taste. A delicately cooked taste of seafood with a hint of sweetness. No need to add salt, as marine organisms carry their own salt content. And the light salt content makes the taste very delicious. Unfortunately, for Kangqiao, these trilobites and strange shrimp are just so big, even if he eats them in small bites, they will only be gone in 5 or 6 bites. And it still feels like eating toothpick meat, too little. Once again, eating cooked food with a nostalgic taste, at this moment, Kangqiao, who transformed into a foodie, once again rushed towards the sea. No matter big or small, they all kill with one claw. Then they piled up together, either grabbing or biting, all brought back to the island. I don't know how long time has passed after doing this. It wasn't until a small hill of seafood piled up on the top of the entire volcano that Kangqiao began to give up hunting. And then the work became very simple. Directly put a large amount of seafood into the soaking seawater on one side of the island. The seawater here is boiling hot, even boiling. It's just a natural big pot. Waiting for a little time, regardless of whether it was fully cooked or not, along with the carapace and internal organs, Kangqiao took a deep breath. Eating a mouthful of seafood, at this moment Kangqiao finally had a feeling of being alive. The monster that transforms into magma, just soaking in magma, Kangqiao actually won't feel hungry. But this kind of day without any desire for words is really unrealistic. I don't even have the feeling of living as a living organism. Just for the delicious seafood, Kangqiao has a wonderful feeling of being alive. A mouthful full of protein, accompanied by a crunchy carapace breaking in the mouth, creating a refreshing sensation like crispy bones, which is really great. Then, the days ahead became simple. When I have free time, I soak in the magma at the bottom of the volcano to rest, and when I crave, I go hunting in the sea. Until one day, a long, long time ago, when he felt increasingly tired and unwilling to move in Kangqiao, he finally fell into a deep sleep once again in the magma. This time during sleep, his whole body was undergoing changes, and his outer skin seemed to have turned into a giant egg or cocoon. Like the emergence of a butterfly larva, when he wakes up again, his body will surely take on a new form. Note: Godzilla larvae are similar to lizard forms. You should know that, and there are also encyclopedias that I remember seeing before. Even if not, let's treat them as a second hypothesis. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Dinosaur Man and God. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Dinosaur Man and God. Time flies, and the crustal plates keep moving. It could be 1,000 years, 1,000 years, or 1,000,000,000 years. Finally, a magical algal bloomed in the ocean. The emergence of these magical algae is a good start, but for some organisms it is a nightmare. A large number of marine native anaerobic organisms began to die, but at the same time, a large number of aerobic giants were born. In the ocean, a large number of algae emit light at night, just like attracting moonlight from the sky, turning countless seas into dreamy places. And with the light of these algae, various strange marine creatures have given birth to countless mutants or evolutionary forms in their death. Some of them have turned into huge fish, while others have turned into various sea animals. Even a portion of it differentiated into land and gradually transformed into various animals, birds, and alien forms. At this point, the entire world and continents have appeared many, and the sea has receded, moving towards the poles of the world and slowly freezing. In the process of time migration that knows no time, new species are constantly evolving strangely under the peaks of a certain continent. This is a group of dinosaurs. A group of giant-toothed dinosaurs that, although carnivorous, also ate fruits. Their largest body size is only 4 meters, and compared to the terrifying world of this giant beast, they are truly a small and vulnerable group. Although weak, it is precisely this weakness that has taught them collective hunting when facing large herbivores. I also learned to separate and escape when facing the prey of terrifying creatures, like a school of fish effect, abandoning some to ensure the successful escape of the other part. In this cruel world, only in this way can they successfully reproduce generation after generation. As time flies, some of them have separated and evolved, slowly giving rise to various forms that suit them throughout the continent. But in the end, some successfully found their gods. A huge mountain range with a terrifying giant volcanic crater. And beneath that giant volcano, there is a huge head half protruding from the magma. Just a head is as huge as a small mountain. Although the head is huge, its shape is very similar to those of these dinosaurs. It is unknown who initially found him. But after experiencing the initial terror, this group of dinosaurs gradually developed reverence and eventually developed the most primitive beliefs. If this is an ordinary world, this belief may not change anything. But this world is obviously not ordinary. Because in the mountains near the gods, some dinosaurs discovered that some newly hatched Cenozoic had undergone strange changes at some point. The new generation's large belly, which should have been arched, turned upright, and the sharp claws of their forelimbs became soft and flexible. Have these new generation dinosaurs become weaker? Yes, at least in the eyes of primitive dinosaurs, these mutated individuals in the new generation could not rely on their strong bodies to hunt like they did. Fortunately, there were very few individual dinosaurs that initially mutated. Due to their odor, or the preserved bloodline connections at the bottom of their genes, primitive dinosaur populations did not consider them as offspring of other races. After all, the individuals who have evolved and mutated in this world over countless years are already ordinary. So, under the nurturing of primitive dinosaurs, the first group of dinosaur humans of the new generation grew up smoothly. These dinosaur people, like primitive dinosaurs, usually drank blood and fur. But unlike primitive dinosaurs, these dinosaurs were even smarter and gradually began to learn how to make tools and use fire through continuous reproduction and growth. Slowly, beneath this mountain range, the once small dinosaur population began to grow rapidly. And it was precisely under this growth that the dominance of the dinosaur tribe smoothly transitioned to the hands of the new generation of dinosaur people. All of this is because dinosaur humans are smarter and more conducive to their survival on this continent. They used their intelligence and tools to defeat one powerful enemy after another nearby, and ultimately established authority. And all of this seems to have been established quickly, but it also took thousands or even tens of thousands of years. In the early morning, the sun slowly rises from the sky. At this moment, on a mountain range, countless dinosaur people are gathering in an incredibly large stone square. These dinosaur humans have a population of over 50,000 and are each about 4 meters tall. But unlike the petite bodies of these dinosaur people, their blood relatives are the most prominent on the outermost edge of the square. The blood relatives of these dinosaur humans have been some of the dinosaurs that have been unable to become dinosaur humans for generations. These dinosaurs, although maintaining the appearance of primitive dinosaurs, have lost the opportunity to acquire intelligent minds. They have only greatly enhanced their body size. This is another group of primitive organisms that grow nearly 10 to 15 meters in length. Their existence is also a guarantee of the strength of the dinosaur human tribe. The darkness has passed, and the light has arrived. Great Larva and the God of the Earth. Please take care of your people. Today, your people will go on an expedition to eradicate the evil alien race that has been harming Larva and the people of the Earth. This is the delicacy offered to you by your people. Please continue to care for your people like before ancient times. On the huge stone square, an elderly dinosaur man held an iron-like scepter and prayed loudly, then gestured for a group of people next to him to push a mountain-shaped corpse of various creatures towards the huge volcano. Under the volcano, the dormant terrifying deity still closed its eyes tightly. But perhaps it was because he felt an object approaching, or because he smelled the aroma of food roasted by high temperature. Like a conditioned reflex, this terrifying deity opened its huge mouth and devoured everything around it. The giant mouth devoured not only the food offered by dinosaur people, but also countless magma flowing into its mouth. Watching the deities constantly devouring the food offered beneath the volcano, the dinosaur people on the edge of the crater were not only not afraid, but also revered and excited. Because not every time the gods eat the food they offer. So, in the eyes of dinosaur people, the food accepted by the gods must be a symbol that the gods will protect them this time. Seeing this joyful scene, the dinosaur man holding a scepter excitedly turned around and loudly announced the news of divine favor to the countless dinosaur men and their blood relatives on the square. Then, amidst the earth-shattering cheers, countless dinosaur people began to take action. They quickly ran up to their blood relatives' backs with various weapons. Then, amidst the vibrations of the earth and the dust blowing in the sky, the army of dinosaur people started from the top of the huge mountain range and quickly headed down the mountain. Under the favor of the gods, the dinosaur people firmly believed that this battle would be won, so the momentum was as scorching as the sun. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. The Apocalypse of Dinosaur Man. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 5. The Awakening Giant Beast. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. The Awakening Giant Beast. The earth is trembling, and the air is echoing. That is the battlefield where dinosaur humans fight against other races. Human-like creatures versus war-like humans. Monsters versus monsters. On the battlefield, these ancient races compete against true brute force. Dinosaur people may have been weak at first, but with the blessing of their faith, their bodies have already become very strong. Some dinosaur humans may appear to be only 4 meters tall, but their bodies exert force, their muscles burst, and they can even throw snake monsters over 10 meters long. A punch can even blow the heads of some other races. And among other races, powerful individuals are no exception. However, compared to the dinosaur humans who already had a hard rock-like skin, like the protection of the earth, the snake humans and the ocean aliens were still slightly weaker. Although snake people have less power, they possess sharp fangs and agile bodies. The sharp fangs were able to bite through the hard stone skin of the dinosaur humans and their blood relatives. As the venom flowed through their bodies, their increasingly fierce battle prematurely claimed their lives. Not to mention, the alien shark humans in the ocean are on par with dinosaur humans in terms of strength and size. The smooth and resilient skin of the shark man can almost remove half of the strength of the dinosaur man with a single punch. Fortunately, shark people need to keep their bodies hydrated at all times, so when they arrive on hot land, they always need a large amount of sea animals to transport water to irrigate them. Therefore, in combat, one can always see some shark people getting weaker and weaker as they fight. However, compared to these, the huge number of dinosaur humans attacked by 2 different races together is an irreparable gap. Moreover, the dinosaur humans were previously ambushed by 2 tribes, resulting in the loss of most of their strong warriors. So, the dinosaur humans constantly suffered defeats on the battlefield and have retreated to the Great Plains area beneath the gathering mountains. On the battlefield, dinosaur humans are desperate. But behind them lies the future and descendants of the ethnic group, the only remaining bloodline of oneself. It was as if carrying the momentum of a back-to-back battle, but at this point, the dinosaur people became more and more brave in battle. Although it's a bit like a trapped beast still fighting. The population lost by the 3 tribes in this war is already very large. It's impossible for either side to back down. Snake people and shark people know that if they miss this opportunity, it will take hundreds or even thousands of years to have a chance to find the extinct dinosaur people again. And the dinosaur people knew better that they could not retreat, because retreat heralded the extinction of their tribe and also meant they would lose control of the entire southern hunting grounds of this land. The time for the primitive origin of intelligent races to reproduce is still too short. The population of the 3 tribes is not very large, but food in the primitive world is also very scarce, not to mention that all 3 tribes are giant beast races. They need a lot of food, but their prey is always scarce. So, for anyone who wants to expand their population, they need more territories and exterminate all visible and threatening races. This is also the reason for the long-term wars among the 3 races and even countless races in this world. Although the ocean is large, there are more races in it. The shark race not only faces threats from other species in the ocean, but perhaps it should also turn its attention to the ocean that is more suitable for their survival. But perhaps the promises of the snake people were enough, so the shark tribe actually landed this time. Ultimately, it was because dinosaur humans had focused their hunting grounds on shallow waters for nearly a century, which successfully angered shark humans. Although snake people also have maritime territories, after all, these snake people are originally born from marine races, so compared to what they can tolerate, shark people cannot tolerate the power of dinosaur people spreading from land to the ocean. Therefore, this is why the two races besieged the Dinosaur Man this time. On the battlefield, the decline of dinosaur humans became increasingly prominent. A large number of primitive dinosaur giants continue to die and are divided between the other two groups of giants for food. Compared to weaker dinosaur humans, they died in large numbers and became spoils of war for the other two races. Dinosaur people have slowly retreated to the sacred mountain they have never abandoned since ancient times. Have we really reached the end of our lives? On the battlefield, countless dinosaur people have such desperate thoughts. And becoming increasingly desperate. Great lava and the gods of the earth. Please save your people. Countless dinosaur people shout in their hearts. That is the only spiritual pillar in despair, and also like the last hope for faith in the swan song of life. Will gods respond to the expectations of dinosaur humans? The answer is, yes. As the blood stained the entire earth red, amidst the prayers and cries of countless dinosaur people, behind the battlefield of the dinosaur people, the sacred mountain where they had lived for a lifetime began to shake. This kind of vibration is more intense and obvious than the vibration and roar of the battlefield. The countless creatures in the original battle thought it was the tremors generated by the battle itself. But gradually, some humanoid creatures with red eyes regained consciousness. They found that the ground vibrations made them almost unable to stand. At the same time, a large number of giant rocks began to roll down from the towering mountains not far away. In confusion and fear, countless creatures looked towards the towering mountains. The dinosaur man saw the old and weak dinosaur man who had been hiding at the mountaintop begin to move towards the foot of the battlefield. That speed is extremely fast. Is that to support the battlefield? No, that's to avoid the possibility of accidental injury caused by the awakening of the gods. The duration of tremors is not short, and they become increasingly intense. The warriors and beasts of the other two tribes on the front line also noticed this anomaly and began to retreat one after another. They were somewhat frightened and knew the possible situations they would face next. This world has gods. And the gods of the other two races have already been revealed many times in their eyes. However, most deities are unwilling to be moved, and due to the hunting of their families, they naturally become lazy. This is a primitive world, and the so-called gods are also very primitive. Their thinking is simple and they obey the lazy desires of biological instincts. So when these so-called gods have tools available, they mostly appear rare. For ordinary life, perhaps they cannot see the appearance of the gods once in their lifetime. Only those who are close to the gods and the leaders of the tribe can have the privilege of seeing them frequently. But not having seen it does not mean that ordinary life does not feel fear and reverence for the existence of God. Moreover, the lives of the leaders who command the battles of the two tribes are certainly aware of the terrifying nature of the gods. What else can trigger such a strong roar and the shaking of mountains, besides gods? So, at the first moment of the mutation, the two tribes retreated and gathered together under the command of some powerful individuals. Do dinosaur humans have gods? At least dinosaur people have always claimed this, not to mention that their population is already very powerful. After all, their own strength is the fundamental basis for establishing themselves in this world, as evidenced by their ability to directly occupy the north and south of this continent separately from the snake people. But regardless of whether they have gods or not, there is no possibility of easing the mobilization of such extermination wars once they begin, unless the dinosaur humans can really summon gods. But are gods so easy to please move? Moreover, even gods have their own strengths and weaknesses. The so-called gods of some weaker races are just slightly stronger beasts. In the process of racial hegemony, the other two races killed many foreign pseudo-gods solely on their own. Moreover, they firmly believe that their gods are the most powerful, so even if they are afraid, both tribes have not yet retreated, and they choose to wait. Perhaps there was a lot of commotion, but they wouldn't have left like this without seeing if this deity was invincible. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. I Am Godzilla. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. I Am Godzilla. The top of the mountain range is cracking. Rolling red lava flowed continuously towards the foot of the mountain along the crack. However, this is not all. A giant volcano erupted, and with a loud roar, black smoke suddenly erupted with an explosion. A large amount of lava boulders splashed into the sky like countless meteorites in this explosion. Then, with powerful potential and flames, these thousands of lava boulders kept falling on the battlefield around the mountains, almost indistinguishable from the enemy. At this moment, like the true end of the world, on this land that is more than 10 kilometers away, a sea of flames instantly erupts. The top of the mountain range is endless black clouds. And these black clouds are formed after volcanic eruptions due to high temperatures and the spread of a large amount of volcanic ash. On the ground, it has already turned into a sea of fire due to the countless drops of lava boulders. However, for the three tribes who were well prepared, this opening apocalyptic scene did not cause much harm to them. They are both monster races and extraordinary races. Their powerful bodies and agile steps allowed most of them to avoid the bombardment of lava boulders falling from the sky. Only a small number of poor insects did not react in time before they died. At this moment, the three tribes have already separated from the battlefield. Dinosaurs gathered near the mountain range, and lava flowed down from the mountain. However, these dinosaur humans have great resistance to lava, flames, and even high temperatures. Some dinosaur people do not even feel pain when stepping on hot lava, but rather feel very comfortable. However, at this time, dinosaur humans were more focused on the mountaintops where lava was continuously spewing out, rather than on flames and lava. Their eyes were hot and ecstatic. Amidst this apocalyptic scene, everyone was inexplicably excited. Not only did the Dinosaur Man look at the top of the mountain range, but the Snake Man and Shark Man races also looked at the continuously erupting volcano as if facing great enemies. Surrounding the battlefield, the sky is filled with black clouds that continue to spread, while the ground is filled with thick smoke and flames. During the sharp rise in temperature, shark people and a large number of sea animals were the most uncomfortable, so they kept changing their positions and getting closer to the water source. As for the Snake Man and the Snake Monster, they all looked around with their crimson pupils, feeling uneasy. The entire incident did not last long. Either 5 minutes, or 10 minutes. In short, as the three tribes continued to transmit messages and change their gathering positions, finally, in a loud roar, a massive object suddenly appeared at the center of the volcanic eruption. Break free from the constraints of rock layers and push aside any discomfort. Kangqiao finally woke up. Roar. The excited roar echoed throughout the entire sky. The huge roar stirred up a majestic sound wave, covering all the surrounding noise in just an instant. Kangqiao felt that it was not easy for him. He finally woke up and could move freely now. So he couldn't help but let out a long roar from the bottom of his heart. At the top of the lava sea, after Kangqiao roared happily, he instinctively moved his limbs slowly like stretching his waist. Just this activity, Kangqiao finally discovered his current abnormality. He is standing, not in the previous crawling state. The forelimbs have become short and sturdy, but they have the contours of human hands. And the lower limbs are thick and well developed like stony thighs. In shock, Kangqiao turned his head to look at his own body. At the next moment, Kangqiao was a bit confused. This design. No, right. Kangqiao is somewhat confused and unbelievable. Extending his short forelimbs, lowering his head, Kangqiao touched his own head. Some are flat, some are square. Then, Kangqiao finally became convinced. I'm just Godzilla. Turns out I've become a Godzilla. No wonder dinosaur people get close to me and have primitive beliefs about themselves. Kangqiao doesn't know how to express his current mood. Some secretly delighted, but also a bit speechless. I secretly rejoice because the Godzilla of Ping 2 brother is finally a creature I know of. Although it's a so-called monster, it's better than a lizard, isn't it? At least it's strong enough. In this unfamiliar world, being able to live again is already earning. As for becoming a Godzilla, it's simply a big profit. But what's speechless is that Kangqiao feels a bit inexplicable. How could I become a Godzilla myself? What is the reason? Okay, this kind of thing has no clue at all. Compared to thinking about this useless thing, Kangqiao still turned his attention back to reality. Standing on the mountaintop, behind it is a gushing magma bath with thick smoke rising. Overlooking from the mountain, Kangqiao finally noticed the dense insects at the foot of the mountain. No. That's not a bug, but a primitive dinosaur about the same size as a bug in Kangqiao's eyes, as well as a smaller dinosaur man. A large number of dinosaur people kept shouting loudly at Kangqiao. But in Kangqiao's ears, it felt like the dog at home was constantly barking. Anyway, the tone and syllable feel the same, so it's completely unclear. And because the high cries were not neat, it was like countless mosquitoes buzzing in Kangqiao's ears, slightly unpleasant to hear. The great god of lava and earth, our Father God. You are the controller of lava, the ruler of the earth, the greatest deity in this world. The evil alien race is slaughtering your people. Please impose divine punishment on the alien race and save your people. At the foot of the mountain, led by the elders of the dinosaur people, a large number of dinosaur people's shouting syllables slowly turned into neat, high-pitched prayers. All the dinosaur people knelt on the ground, ignoring the lava flowing around them, and looked at the giant beast on the mountain with such a hot and worshipful gaze. And further away, 2 alien camps quietly observed the progress of the situation. Many of them are afraid, but some are whispering and seem to be planning something. Kangqiao is a bit curious. His curiosity was not about primitive dinosaurs, but about how dinosaur humans with dinosaur heads but humanoid bodies evolved. How could such a person be like this? Is this evolution reasonable? Moreover, when viewed from the mountaintop, adjust the visual distance as Kangqiao's pupils shrink slightly. He also saw snake people with snake tails, as well as their blood relatives, those giant snakes with a body length of 30 to 50 meters. There are also a large number of shark people with fish heads on the other side, as well as various strange-looking sea animals. Octopus with 8 claws. Colorful sea snakes and things that look like walruses. In short, compared to the terrestrial population, the sea animal race under the dependence of the shark people in the ocean surprised Kangqiao the most. How did these obviously different-looking creatures, who are not of the same race, come together? Similar symbiotic relationship. Also, what exactly has this world become like? I can't understand Kangqiao. However, although I cannot understand the changes in this world, there is one thing that Cambridge probably understands. That's because these guys had a war with the dinosaur humans before. This can be concluded from the large number of corpses left on the distant plain. Just don't know if this is a 3-race melee, or a 2-on-1. After taking a brief look at the positions of the 3 tribes, Kangqiao came to a conclusion. The dinosaur man was clearly beaten 2 times, and judging from the casualties on the battlefield, the dinosaur man was completely suppressed in this battle. If it weren't for their sudden awakening, these dinosaur people would probably have gone extinct, right? End of this chapter. Chapter 7. God's Revelation and War. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 God's Revelation and War, the primitive fantasy intelligent race and their wars. From the perspective of outsiders, it is actually a very interesting thing. That feels like watching 2 ant colonies fighting in 2 ant colonies as a human. However, Kangqiao must not be able to stay out of the situation at this time. After all, from the strange state in his dream, Kangqiao knew that these interesting-looking dinosaur people were all races close to him. As for what is not divine, Let's forget it, it feels so troublesome. In short, even if these guys originally believed in themselves as gods, Kangqiao would not really consider themselves as gods. At most, it is only from a higher dimension, to help these lower intelligent creatures with wisdom beyond the limitations of the times. After all, I was a person in my past life. The concept of distance and closeness still exists. Dinosaurs and Godzilla looked too close to each other, not to mention these guys even offered themselves a lot of food while they were asleep. So no matter from which perspective, Kangqiao should help a group of poor little dinosaurs. The dinosaur people at the foot of the mountain are still bowing and shouting, and at this moment, some great gods are even starting to jump up. These guys are really a bit inexplicably cute. Okay, although Kangqiao wanted to laugh a bit, he still noticed some bold guys. Some snake monsters actually began to take a detour, hiding in some fiery forests below the plain. They want to go around to the back of the other side of the mountain range. As for what you want to do, Kangqiao is not a fool. This is planning to ambush oneself. Although Kangqiao is huge, some individuals of the snake monsters in the Snake Man tribe are still very large. Probably comparing humans to eels in paddy fields. These snake monsters can actually justify relying on their numbers to ambush themselves. After all, although there is a large difference in body size, it still looks like an extraordinary world. Who knows if these snake monsters have any peculiar abilities? Speaking of which, Kangqiao had some doubts again. He was wondering how tall he was. 200 meters. 300 meters. Or 500 meters. He remembers that Godzilla in movies and even Godzilla in Ultraman's worldview were only about 50 to 100 meters tall, right? But how are you now? A cliff cannot be only 100 meters high. What is this to oneself? Sure enough, we can't simply apply the settings we knew in our past lives. I don't know what abilities this Godzilla has right now. Can atomic emission be achieved? Even if not, thermal radiation is still possible, right? If it doesn't work anymore, just spit out the fire, okay? Otherwise, I wouldn't have slept in the magma for so long in vain. Give it a try. Looking at the snake monsters lurking in the primitive forest below the plain, Kangqiao was excited and really planned to give it a try. What should we do? Hold your breath. The whole body exerted force, and the muscles instantly tightened. As a result, Kangqiao took a deep and long breath. Then. I have feelings, I have feelings. Right now and then, roar. Cough, cough, cough. On the mountaintop, there was a loud roar first. But before he could finish shouting, Godzilla's throat was only slightly red, and in the next moment, Cambridge was choked. Nima, that feeling is like a sudden itching and phlegm in the throat, and then the phlegm suddenly enters the trachea. It's strange not to be choked. Kangqiao felt embarrassed and wanted to die. There are so many dinosaur people watching down the mountain. But compared to awkwardness, Kangqiao himself felt so uncomfortable at this moment that he wanted to cry. After all, tears were almost choked out. Moreover, he even emitted wisps of black smoke from his mouth and nostrils at this moment. Yes. Failed. Just like a baby who wants to run right after learning to walk, it's impossible to succeed without trying again and again. At this moment, the dinosaur people at the foot of the mountain were all stunned. Because they had just seen the huge dorsal fin behind their father god suddenly emitting a red light. Then, their father first roared, and then began to cough intermittently. All the dinosaur people were stunned and confused. Father, was this choked by the smoke from the volcano? For a moment, a dinosaur cub froze and looked back at the adult next to it. But when the adult regained his senses, he immediately turned his hand and hit the baby's head. Find a fight. What blasphemous words are you saying? How could the great father be choked? His divine voice must have profound implications, perhaps it may not necessarily be a revelation to us. What should the elderly know? Dinosaur cubs hugged their heads in both hands and looked at adults with tearful eyes, feeling extremely aggrieved for a moment. But even if he feels wronged, he dare not speak recklessly. The dinosaur elder looked at Godzilla, whose entire figure was half shrouded in red and gray smoke, and heard the thunderous cough. He was just stunned for a moment, then turned around and said solemnly and excitedly to the tribe members. Father is warning the invading evil alien race, and this thunderous sound is a revelation. At the same time, this is also a new guidance given to us by Father. As the great people of the gods of lava and earth, we should not be afraid of everything. Father is watching us. Brave lava warriors, go to battle, go to victory, and let the strange race of poisonous mist and water know what true warriors are. The dinosaur man raised the pitted black stone scepter in his hand with a loud voice. At this moment, the dinosaur people exclaimed excitedly. The elder is a sacrificial deity of the ethnic group and the closest existence to the gods. His explanation of the divine revelation is definitely not wrong. Look. Father really cast a glance at them. Yes, right in the smoke of the volcano, Kangqiao's two huge pupils were emitting flames as he looked at the dinosaur man at the foot of the mountain outside. In this gloomy world, looking at the fiery red eyes that seemed to suddenly emerge from the clouds, at this moment, all the dinosaur people were excited and cheered loudly. They began to rush towards the battlefield again amidst the cheers of some strong leaders. This time not only did these strong soldiers charge towards the battlefield, but even the elderly and children rushed out. The fervent atmosphere has been completely ignited. My own father is watching me, this is the true thought in the hearts of all dinosaur people, they have nothing to fear anymore. Like a mad dog out of its cage, looking at the dinosaur people and their blood relatives rushing towards the battlefield in an instant, the primitive dinosaurs, at this moment, Kangqiao was really stunned and couldn't be more stunned. Sleeping trough, are these mentally challenged little guys all crazy? Why did they suddenly rush towards the battlefield like they've been beaten with chicken blood? Staring innocently, Kangqiao could guess some situation. But is this too crazy? Indeed, primitive beliefs are poisonous. Didn't I just choke and cough? Are you using my cough as a horn for attack? Cambridge is completely speechless. But since things have all turned out like this, there's nothing we can do. So in the next moment, Kangqiao is not ready to spray anything anymore, he just steps down from the mountaintop. And it was precisely at this moment that every step Kangqiao took, the huge tonnage would cause the ground to sink deeply. At the same time, there would be a large number of mountains and rocks splashing and rolling down on the ground, and countless lava sparks flying under his feet. Kangqiao, a prehistoric beast, began to move and for the first time declared its power to the world. Mengxin's first time writing a book, I really need everyone's support. I'm looking for collection, followed up reading, and everything. I really need it, end of this chapter. Chapter 8. Destruction or Rebirth. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Destruction or rebirth. The water of the great river began to spread onto the land. That is the result of the sea animals behind the shark man manipulating the river water. The river spread by, and the burning plain immediately began to calm all the heat. The magma flowing down from the mountaintop quickly came into contact with the river and emitted billowing white smoke. For a moment, the entire plain began to be enveloped in thick smoke. Amidst the mist of water, the dinosaur humans stomped on lava and entered the knee-high river water, only to have been once again engaged in battle with the alien race of water in a moment. On the other side of the battlefield, the snake people of the Poison Mist clan and their blood relatives, the huge snake monsters, also began to spew poison mist, turning the entire battlefield into a pitch-black miasma swamp. The battle on the battlefield is imminent. Under the various toxic smoke that covered the sky and sun, almost all three tribes were blinded. Stepping down, Kangqiao kept staring at the battlefield. The battles of these three primitive intelligent races are disorganized. Giant beasts and humanoid creatures all fight against each other, there is no such thing as soldiers versus generals. However, the mode of fighting among the three tribes during this period surprised Kangqiao a bit. When dinosaurs entered a state of battle, their veins burst and their bodies seemed to swell a bit. Some leaders of 4-meter-tall dinosaur humans were able to punch a snake monster over 20 meters long and blow its brain out. These guys jump up almost 20 or 30 meters high. It's simply inhumane. Although they were originally non-human, their physique still surprised Kangqiao a bit. Snake people are not vegetarians either. Each snake person, excluding human parts, has a length generally exceeding 7 or 8 meters. Compared to dinosaur humans, although these snake humans may not have the physical strength, their venom spit out can actually corrode their rocky skin, and the corrosion seen is comparable to concentrated sulfuric acid. Even if a strong dinosaur person is sprayed with too much venom, they cannot resist. As for the shark man side, that would be even more rough. Mixed with numerous sea beasts such as octopuses, their attack modes are even more diverse. Not to mention that the physique of shark people is not weaker than that of dinosaur people, and the number of these two races far exceeds that of dinosaur people. So, shortly after the war broke out again, the battlefield of the Dinosaur Man began to suffer a large number of casualties and became noticeably disadvantaged. Having faith and a fearless spirit is not enough. War is not a child's play, let alone in the wild era, where there are countless individuals from extraordinary races who are not afraid of death. This is probably the so-called glory of warriors, right? Kangqiao watched the fighting on the battlefield and stood far behind. At this moment, he has arrived at the foot of the mountain range, and behind him is the Flame Mountain Range, which is filled with a large amount of lava. Standing in the smoke at the junction of lava and river, Kangqiao had already planned to take action. And this time, of course, Kangqiao chose to test his own abilities. If you rely on brute force to charge, it would be too much, and he cannot guarantee that it will not affect the Dinosaur Man. Take a deep breath. This time, Kangqiao closed his eyes slightly and sensed the inexplicable energy flow inside his powerful body. Then, gather. Gather. Gathering Kangqiao is charging, and it is significantly different from the previous one. Additionally, there is a strange temporary loss of perception towards the outside world. And that is to say, when Kangqiao is gathering energy, at the foot of Kangqiao, on the volcanic mountain range that is constantly flowing with lava behind him. Countless rolling lava flowed down like seawater, accelerating and converging towards Kangqiao's body. Yes, countless lava began to climb onto Kangqiao's body. From Godzilla's thighs upwards, these fiery lava seemed to have life, constantly winding and covering Kangqiao's body. They climbed onto Kangqiao's back, chest, and head. Then, as the endless lava covered Kangqiao's entire body, it seemed like it had turned into a nutritious liquid and was absorbed by Kangqiao's body one after another. It's like water droplets on paper. Lava continuously converged on Kangqiao's body, but at the same time, it quickly disappeared into Kangqiao's body. Kangqiao's body is getting redder and brighter. Finally, there were countless dense lines resembling runes covering Godzilla's entire body. For a moment, Godzilla's body seemed to become transparent. But beneath this transparency, countless lava-like lights shine. Unconsciously, the temperature in the air began to rise sharply. The river water near Kangqiao evaporates in an instant, without even emitting a smoke of water vapor. This high temperature ranges from near to far. Finally, at the moment Godzilla opened his eyes, a red halo suddenly appeared from Godzilla's feet. The aperture carries high temperature and immediately spreads out. The speed broke through the sound barrier and produced a huge sonic boom. With the sound explosion, Godzilla's feet suddenly flew sand and stones, and the aperture spread out for an instant. The river water, which was originally controlled by sea beasts on the ground parallel to the aperture, evaporated in an instant. Time seems to freeze at this moment. The soil and stones on the earth in the place where the aperture swings open have all melted, instantly turning into a molten hell. And the dinosaur humans who were attacked by the aperture were ignited all over their bodies, turning into fiery figures one by one. They did not disappear with ashes, but became fiery people roaring in pain. All of this came so suddenly that when the aperture opened, many dinosaur humans and primitive dinosaurs in the battle did not notice. Dinosaur humans with extremely high resistance to high temperatures and flames are like this, let alone snake and shark humans. The range of the red flame aperture is not large, but it is also not small. Within a radius of 5 kilometers centered around Godzilla, everything has turned into a sea of lava. Snake people, snake monsters, shark people, sea beasts, all the other races within this range have turned into ashes, leaving nothing behind. And outside this range, those slightly closer are all scorching with high temperatures and howling in pain. At the junction of the river and the sea of fire, a large amount of white mist curtain wall with water vapor appeared. This terrifying and exaggerated scene frightened all the lives present. All the fighting personnel froze and stopped, all of them coincidentally looking at the huge creature in the center of the sea of fire, and their minds went blank for a moment. What's going on here? Father, are you really going to abandon your people? Why should your people also be punished by God? Why? Beyond the sea of fire, countless dinosaur people were the first to come to their senses. But in an instant, he was filled with immense grief and disbelief. Because in the sea of fire, the life closest to the mountains is the dinosaur human race. How can they accept watching the tribe and primitive dinosaurs howling and turning into fiery figures in the sea of fire? The uninvolved dinosaurs were desperate and collapsed. Some people even disregard the high temperature of the flames and quickly run into the flames, calling out to their relatives and friends. They were crying, tears streaming down their faces, while some had already collapsed in fear, their faces hopeless and pale. It hurts so much. I'm in such pain. Ah, Father! Ah, Father! Ah, Father, save me! In the sea of fire, a young dinosaur man was burning a big fire all over his body. He kept rolling on the ground, but the ground was already a sea of lava, and no matter how he rolled, it was impossible to extinguish the fire on his body. So, this young dinosaur could only burst into tears and shout loudly. The entire horrific scene occurred in just over 10 seconds, but it had already frightened all 3 tribes present and made them afraid to move. Father, is this your punishment for us who have failed? In the sea of fire, watching the flames burning all over his body and feeling the loss of life, the dinosaur elder also despair. Who could have thought of it? The previous second, although they were still full of hope and excited about the awakening of Father, to their surprise, Father's divine punishment fell instantly, including themselves. Enduring the pain, the dinosaur elder closed his eyes in agony as he watched all the screams, rolling, and even howling people around the sea of fire. However, in the blink of an eye, the elderly dinosaur humans closed their eyes. Suddenly, he opened his eyes again. Because dinosaur humans found that the life that passed through their bodies was not really passing away. The pain is present, and at the beginning it is the most intense. But in less than 30 seconds, this pain quickly subsided. In the end, the dinosaur man raised his hand and found that the blazing flames on his body and arms were slowly fading away. It's as if their bodies have absorbed the flames. In the end, in less than a minute, when the dinosaur elder regained consciousness from his confused observation, the flames on his body had completely disappeared. At the same time, the dinosaur man also felt a force that had never been before quickly covering his entire body. Originally, he shouldn't have been old for long, but now, feeling the inexplicable power in his body, the dinosaur-like elder seems to have returned to his youth. The dinosaur elder widened his eyes and stood in disbelief on the spot for a moment. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Freshman in closing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Freshman in closing. This is not a divine punishment. No. This is not only divine punishment, but also the Father's favor and gift to his people. Just like in ancient times, Father God gave us wisdom and new postures, and now Father God has given us new abilities. Fire. Standing in the sea of fire, feeling the inexplicable aura flowing inside. The dinosaur elder reluctantly tried to control this airflow, and then he saw flames sprouting from his fist, which turned red and hot. He can manipulate flames. The flame ability that lava warriors have always longed for has actually been obtained. Just like a snake person spits venom and a shark person releases cold air. Lava warriors are no longer just powerful in their bodies, but they have also gained divine favor. They finally truly became the people of God. Even before Kangqiao woke up, dinosaur humans have been trying for generations. Try to approach the Father God and frequently enter the magma bath in order to gain the strongest body and even the ability to control flames. But after so many generations, although dinosaur people have become much more resistant to flames, they have never been able to possess the ability of flames, and even when entering a magma bath, they cannot persist for too long. However, what they have always longed for and persisted in, surprisingly, they finally achieved it so easily today. At this point, not only have the dinosaur humans fully recovered their original posture and successfully controlled the flames, but also some of the nearly 10,000 dinosaur humans and primitive dinosaurs shrouded in the sea of fire have regained consciousness. From the initial extreme pain to now comfortable and awake, my whole body is filled with a sense of strength, and the sound of clenching my fists and bones making a new click is so clear. Primitive dinosaurs had extremely low intelligence, but ultimately they were individuals hatched and derived from dinosaur eggs throughout this generation. Although they may not seem to have received divine favor and become dinosaur humans, the vastness of their bodies and the further advancement of their power can also be considered a tremendous evolution. Obviously, in the eyes of dinosaur humans, the blood relatives of primitive dinosaurs were also favored by their fathers. It's just that their evolutionary direction is different from that of dinosaur humans. Of course, there is also a small group of contemporary dinosaur people who believe that the blood relatives of primitive dinosaurs were abandoned individuals by gods because they lacked intelligence. But now it's different. Because it's not just dinosaur humans who have received divine favor this time, but also primitive dinosaurs. And this once again proves that primitive dinosaurs were also favored by gods, as generations of elders have said, they only grew in different directions. In the sea of fire, when a primitive dinosaur about 20 meters long stood up, its mouth opened and it spewed flames, instantly leaving the uninvolved dinosaur people outside and the other two races stunned. This primitive dinosaur is so similar to Tyrannosaurus rex. The mouth with huge teeth, the hard outer skin, and the ability to spit out flames now, it is truly a war machine. Of course, this time's divine favor goes far beyond that, but it will require the dinosaur human race to explore on its own in the future. Time passed by minute by second, and in the sea of fire, there were constantly dinosaur humans and primitive dinosaurs waking up. They stood on the lava in the sea of fire, each a bit confused, but soon cheered. They looked towards the red Lotus Huakong bridge standing behind, towering in the sky, and all cheered loudly. Praise the Father for giving us a new and powerful body. Praise Father God. The noisy atmosphere is completely different from the previous despair. However, this rough encounter with divine companions was not perfect, as the dinosaur humans and primitive dinosaurs who were unable to successfully master the flame ability fell silent in the moment. As for the quantity, it accounts for approximately 1/5. However, these deceased members of the tribe clearly do not make this primitive intelligent tribe too sad. And this is the benefit of faith. They firmly believe that this is God's favor and another test. If they don't withstand the test, they will die. For the subsequent reproduction of the ethnic group, these failed or weak-willed deceased individuals have no impact at all. Moreover, in this war, the dinosaur people have already lost enough of their tribe members, and that's not lacking. Life is not worth any money in this primitive era. They believe in the law of the jungle and the law of the jungle. Compared to the current stronger ethnic groups, acquiring new abilities, and awakening the gods, these are completely insignificant. Only the gods are still alive. As long as the population becomes stronger, the subsequent reproduction of dinosaur humans is not a problem at all. So, in the Sea of Fire, there was a burst of cheers in an instant. In the distance, not only did the dinosaur warriors at the forefront stare blankly, but the other two races also looked foolish. At this moment, both Snake Man and Shark Man were timid. On the river with its back against the battlefield, a shark man holding a bone staff is riding on a huge sea beast on the water surface, watching this scene from afar. This is a true god, far beyond the comparison of pseudo-gods, nor can we mortals fight against it. Send the order and let all the people of Shui return. This battle is no longer necessary. Although lava and the earth may be covered by water, sometimes there are boundaries within the reach of water. This matter needs to be reported to our gods. That's it. Also, don't forget to go to the exotic tribe in Poison Mist to demand the blood food they promised in advance. Tell them that our water people have suffered huge losses this time, so the food for the gods who offer tribute to the water must be indispensable. Otherwise, next time, it may be us and the other races of lava who are looking for trouble with them. The Shark Man said to the subordinate beside him as a sacrifice. Good, the three ethnic groups have been entangled for a long time, and the state of hostility can even be traced back nearly 10,000 years. After all, there are still many battles, big and small, to seize territory. So actually, all three parties have some understanding of the strength of each party. Of course, this kind of understanding is not only about the information of the gods. After all, the gods may not appear once for thousands of years, and even if they do, they may not necessarily go out, and they rarely help the so-called clan in battle. So the real battles are their own business as ordinary people. At the same time, many deities take a nap and say that their Tool Man group may not necessarily perish. This kind of thing should not be too frequent in the development of this world. Almost all intelligent races know one thing, which is that most true gods are very sleepy. It's difficult to wake up, and waking up once is all about eating, not giving food. It's almost possible to consider extermination. So the commonality of the gods' drowsiness is also the true reason why the snake and shark people dared to attack their stronghold without knowing whether the dinosaur humans really had divine protection. It would definitely be better to be able to destroy dinosaur humans, but if there is a god present, the false god will be eliminated along with the situation. If there is a true god, it can be used as a test, and it is not a disadvantage. At least this battle can truly understand the true background of the opponent. For these primitive intelligent races, what kind of true gods and false gods are, in fact, everything depends on their strength. Powerful beasts are naturally true gods, while weak chickens are naturally false gods. This time, if it weren't for the fact that the dinosaur people thought they had enough rest and could consider unifying the continent with the snake exterminators, they wouldn't have been ambushed and attacked. And now it may take hundreds or even thousands of years to cultivate oneself. Of course, the cost paid by the Snake Man this time is also enormous. 7 out of 10 dinosaur human groups have gone, while snake humans are about in half. The group with the least loss is actually the shark people who assist in the battle. The ocean is large enough, and the area occupied by shark people is only a quarter of the ocean. Far from being comparable to land races. If it weren't for the involvement of the other 3 races in the ocean, excluding the existence of gods, it wouldn't have been too difficult for Shark Man to exterminate Snake Man and Dinosaur Man. However, compared to land, shark people have some interest, but not much. After all, they are a marine species and still prefer to stay in the water. They are only interested in the 2 ethnic pastures on land, as well as the possible abundance of blood food. After all, their gods are so edible. The Shark Man and the Sea Beast retreated without hesitation. I can't believe that this lava alien race really has divine favor and just woke up. Unfortunately, it's despicable. The snake worshipper reluctantly retreated, while looking back with a voice of regret. But no matter how regretful it is, it cannot change anything. The Shark Man has already retreated, and they cannot and dare not fight such a terrifying deity. So the losses are huge, and the thought of handing over the blood and food of the alien race to the water, the snake people's sacrifice, if it weren't for considering their identity, would almost be vulgar. The loss is too great, and the result is just like this. The only good thing is that they had previously ambushed an expedition force of 50,000 dinosaur people and their blood relatives. Although half of the blood and food from the corpses will be distributed to the water alien, the Snake Man also has half, and with a small portion of their own livestock on land, it is enough to fulfill this contract with the water alien. In short, the Snake Man suffered a great loss this time, while the Dinosaur Man suffered even greater losses. So when the Shark Man and Snake Man ran away without any care, the Dinosaur Man never thought of pursuing them. As a result, the only thing left on the scene now is Kangqiao looking bewildered and staring at tens of thousands of excited dinosaur people. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. The Clans of Godzilla. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. The Clans of Godzilla. The sky is dark due to persistent volcanic ash eruptions. And underground is bright, but half of the sky is red. At this point, the entire mountain range, along with most parts of the plain, can be said to be devoid of any vegetation. The underground has completely turned into a sea of lava. In this sea of fire, towering in the sky is a terrifying monster. Underneath the giant beast are densely packed small creatures that loudly praise them. Kangqiao is really foolish at this moment. He just planned to spray the waves, but before the waves could spray, it triggered an incredible change. Of course, although the convergence ability of the chest and abdomen did not spray, it also indirectly sprayed some. The ripple of flames that just emerged from oneself can also be considered a wave, right? The spread of flame ripples turned everything within a radius of 5 kilometers into a sea of lava, and the surrounding area 5 kilometers away was also scorched black. Many areas on the periphery even show crystallization on the ground. In short, Kangqiao is not a completely unleashed strategy, and its indirect impact on the area exceeds at least 7 or 8 kilometers in a radius. Such an exaggerated scene was clearly extremely shocking in Kangqiao's own eyes. Apart from the shocking scenes he brought, the most shocking thing for Kangqiao was the exaggerated changes that occurred in the flames of the affected dinosaur people and many of their blood relatives. That is the ability to control flames, a body that is not afraid of the high temperature of lava. Like Godzilla, whose entire body was covered in fiery red with countless rune-like patterns at this time, there were also more or less brilliant red runes appearing on these dinosaurs that had successfully acquired flame power. Watching these dinosaurs successfully mutate or evolve again due to their own reasons, Kangqiao finally understood one thing. That is, the birth of these dinosaur humans really has a great relationship with themselves. Similar to radiation. Is oneself a radiation source? And the existence of dinosaur humans is the result of their own radiation. Just thinking about it, Kangqiao felt that the original cognition of the upright ape in its past life had been overturned. Sure enough. This world is not a normal world, and what is oneself? Perhaps in the eyes of these tiny dinosaur people, they are really their gods, right? Under a slight shock, Kangqiao was unsure whether to smile or make other expressions. In short, after a moment of hesitation, he immediately chose to lie down. There's no other meaning, it's just because standing too high, the little one with pupils trying to keep a close eye on the ground is really eye-catching. At this moment, due to the incomplete spray, Godzilla's body in Kangqiao is still in a bright red state with extremely high temperatures. His lava lying on the ground is like water, and he is a giant beast semi-floating on the water surface. As for dinosaur humans and their blood relatives, these little guys are too small in size compared to Kangqiao, and the tension of the lava can fully support them standing on it. Moreover, these dinosaur people actually dare not get too close to Kangqiao, which is in its heyday at this time. After all, the temperature around Kangqiao's body surface is too high, not less than 10,000, and it is estimated that it will not be lower than 3 to 5,000. This is still the surface temperature of Kangqiao. If we release the wave, who knows how high the temperature of this wave will be. Being too close to such high temperatures is completely seeking death. So, the surviving dinosaur humans and their blood relatives all gathered 1 kilometer away from Kangqiao's body. Nature absorbs heat, and although the lava around Kangqiao, which is the source of high temperatures, is like water, the lava 1 kilometer away has actually begun to gradually cool down. The fiery red lava is covered with black dots, which is a sign of the lava slowly cooling down. Therefore, even dinosaur humans and primitive dinosaurs standing in these places would not sink. The elder dinosaur led by him watched as the deity dissolved in lava and looked at them with his giant eyes in a lower position, undoubtedly excited. Standing in front of all the members of the tribe, in front of the giant lava beast, the dinosaur man and the elder attempted to approach the deity. 500 meters. It's a bit hot, but it can barely support. 100 meters, it's very hot and uncomfortable, but it's not enough to die suddenly. In the end, the dinosaur elder stood respectfully and carefully at a position of about 200 meters under the quiet gaze of the gods. Then the dinosaur elder began to kneel before his deity and shout loudly. Strong and kind Father, you are the controller of lava, the ruler of the earth, and the greatest being in this world. Thank you for giving the lava people a strong body again. May I ask what your people should do for you next? The dinosaur man shouted loudly while patting his chest and forehead with his hand. It's probably a gesture of prayer. However, in Kangqiao's eyes, it is completely unclear why. There's no way, Kangqiao can't understand what the little guy in front of him is saying. In Kangqiao's eyes, he even felt that dinosaur people looked the same, and adults and elderly people were almost indistinguishable. Anyway, they are all alternative flat-headed guys in small sizes. If you don't understand, then don't understand. After all, the height of life is different, and ants are always ants. It's just that these ants are raised separately from the wild. Kangqiao has always existed for the curiosity of dinosaur people. Now that he finally has time to scrutinize these little guys, he naturally won't let them go. So looking at the respectful little flathead in front of him, assuming that he wouldn't be scared by his next actions. Under the fiery lava, Kangqiao extended his forelimbs. Due to being immersed in lava, Kangqiao's forelimbs naturally emerged from under the lava and immediately lifted the dinosaur elder. Dinosaur humans and elders were momentarily panicked when lifted, but soon became excited and excited. Because in his view, this is the result of Father's approval of himself, so Father intends to ask him a question up close. Or perhaps release a new divine revelation. Like the elders of dinosaur people, the large number of dinosaur people gathered around the periphery were inexplicably excited as they watched their elders being lifted by the gods. My own father, God, finally did not fall asleep. He recognized these people of lava and the earth. But these dinosaur people were happy, but they forgot that the temperature of their deity's body at this moment was extremely terrifying. So, without being happy for a second, the dinosaur man suddenly transformed into a fiery figure. The dinosaur man, who was in great pain and his whole body turned red like a bridge, once felt like he was about to melt. This kind of pain is simply inhumane, and in the end, it even numbs the nerves. So the pain was only a moment, and then the dinosaur elder calmed down the painful expression, the whole process taking less than a few seconds. From panic, to surprise, then to pain, and finally to numbness. In just a few seconds, the dinosaur humans experienced everything that others could not. Looking at the small flat head that had turned into a fiery figure in his own hands, Kangqiao was also somewhat surprised for a moment. Because he also forgot his own state for a moment. So, to be a little careless, Kangqiao also felt a bit frustrated. Even thinking that one's carelessness may make this small flat head curl up dead. But the next moment, Kangqiao discovered that although this little guy had transformed into a human-like flame, it had not melted or died. On the contrary, the pupils are still filled with a calm state of wisdom. Or is it numbness? What's the point? Kangqiao widened his eyes and scrutinized it carefully, only to find that the dinosaur man was in his palm, and the body of the flame was actually absorbing energy from the huge grooves on his forelimbs. This energy surrounds the body of the dinosaur like a thread or a wisp of green smoke. Very subtle, but it did establish a connection between Kangqiao and this dinosaur elder. Of course, this kind of connection is only an energy connection, and there is no other supernatural aspect. End of this chapter.